Let's go to Bruce in San Fernando Valley. I've read that elimination of phosphates is not necessary unless the phosphate level exceeds 1,000. Why would I want to go to the expense and time to use a phos-free or a phosphate removing product? Well, I hate to say this, but that's not accurate or not entirely true. Realistically, you can get phosphate, or you can have phosphate levels of about 120 parts per billion. And I said parts per billion. Now, most things in the pool industry
parts per million
are measured in parts per million.
Yeah.
Phosphate is measured in parts per billion. So just kind of consider that. A little bit of phosphate contaminates or pollutes a long way. So if you've got over 100, 120 parts per billion of phosphate, you're a candidate for algae. Now, will you get algae at that level? Probably not. That's pretty low,
right?
Maybe a little.
It's a limiting nutrient.
That's right. So consider that. The higher the level of phosphate, the more severe the potential for the bloom will be. An algae bloom will only go or reach a certain level as dictated by the level of phosphate. So a pool with 500 parts per billion, hypothetically, is not going to be as severe of an algae bloom as a swimming pool with 1,000. But 1,000 is considered pretty darn high. Yep. And I would definitely get some sort of a phosphate removing product. I would recommend, obviously, the Perfect Weekly to maintain a low level on a weekly basis, because phosphates are being introduced constantly. I said they're an abundant element. They're constantly polluting your pool. It comes from rain, dirt, dust, fertilizers, you name it.
Normally, phosphates are terrific, but in a pool,
Absolutely.
they're the bad guy.
They are
Only
the bad
in a swimming pool.
And it's not a question of if you get them, it's a question of when. So 1,000 to me is a high level. You can get algae at anything over 125. So Bruce, I strongly recommend getting your water tested, figuring out where you're at, and keeping that level down. Now, the good news is by simply adding the Perfect Weekly after an initial dose, you will have a near zero level of phosphate, and you'll be on easy street. So you never have to worry about them as long as you're using the Perfect Weekly. Great question.